I'd like to call the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission to order. It's March 7th and 7 o'clock. We're on the second floor of the City Hall building. Mr. Hoopy, could you please call the roll?
John Kotarski.
Here.
Allison Buck.
Here.
Connie Brown.
Here.
Colleen Craw. David Esau.
Here.
Bob Miller.
Here.
Patty Smith. Councilmember Smith. David Zinn. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Hoopy. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you for May 2nd. Is there a motion to approve this agenda? Commissioner Brown made the motion and Commissioner Miller seconded. Any discussion, additions, or deletions from this agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, we now have an agenda. The next item on the agenda is for public comment. This is a time when we invite the public to come and comment. We like to hear good and bad, so no matter what your opinion is, we want to hear it. We'd like you to keep your comments to around 3 minutes, but we're flexible. We're the Art Commission. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? There appears to be public here, but nobody would like to comment. We now have several minutes to approve, and why don't we just take them in order? This, for the public, sort of gives everyone an idea of what we've done, who's shown up to meetings, and it's not a transcript, it's just a very brief idea of what was conducted. The first one is the retreat, Saturday, March 3rd at 1 p.m. If everyone has a copy of that. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Commissioner Esau.
Second.
And Commissioner Buck seconded. Now, additions or deletions, I want to give you time to review. And I really trust Commissioner Esau. He is our eagle eye. Have you found something?
Well, this was a long time ago, and this is the first time we've seen these since that meeting. But under the future of APAC, I remember certainly we discussed the possibility of fundraising and donation opportunities. I don't remember that being a major aspect of where we came down by the end of the meeting in terms of what we were going to pursue.
We did discuss it,
Yeah.
and it's not on here that we discussed fundraising, private fundraising. Is that?
Well, it's
No, it says under the future of APAC, that's one of like 3 things that are our major focus for the future.
yeah.
And
Is
I
that
don't remember that
Sentence
being
under-
a major focus for the
Oh.
future.
Says future of APAC consists of pursuing fundraising and or donation opportunities for art projects throughout the city.
Absolutely, right.
Continue to push forward for more opportunities.
Yeah, I don't recall that we discussed it, but I don't recall that's what I'm not so sure this is accurate. Commissioner Esau, you're excellent wordsmith. Could you, and you found this.
Where is this located? I'm sorry.
Right here.
The minutes of Saturday, March 3rd, under approval of agenda, which is a bizarre place to put it, what is the future of APAC? Future of APAC consists of pursuing fundraising donation opportunities.
That was something that was said by City Council back when the APAC was changed from old to new, or new to old, or however you want to. That's their words, actually, that I recall. But I don't.
in terms of what they thought APAC's future was in totality? Because it kind of reads like that's what our future is. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, do you recall, John?
I recall it was one of
Yeah, one
a
of many.
laundry list.
Yeah, one of many.
Maintain the
Yeah.
artwork, promote the
Yeah.
artwork, educate.
Right.
It was not.
Public and private.
It was not as prominent as it appears in these minutes. I believe It was one of the items that came up in discussion,
Yes.
but it certainly wasn't one of the 6 that we identified. It was, so I think Commissioner Esau is correct in pointing out that this would be confusing if one were to think that this was what our group at the retreat,
Came away with.
that this is our future. Could we then just delete this paragraph? What is the future of APAC?
I don't think we have to delete the whole paragraph,
Okay.
just after consists of through city.
I don't think it should read as what is the future of APAC, because it makes it an all-encompassing statement as to our charge. And underneath that, we have some things that are actually the future of APAC,
Yeah.
some of the goals we're pursuing. So it being included as maybe one of the things we're doing makes more sense than it being the future of APAC. I don't know if
Or
somebody.
simply, as you said, goals that APAC is pursuing.
Yeah, it's a goal, it's not.
It's a goal.
And the other goals in that paragraph are basically underneath there in the actual goals listing, so I think we.
Yeah,
can
so you
really
could
just-
Move
actually
it down
take
to
the
the
whole thing
goals
out.
list and then,
I think we should just
Take the whole thing out.
yeah, and
Take,
The
is
whole
that
paragraph.
agreeable
Yeah.
to everyone, is to take that paragraph out?
Yep.
And what about the paragraph before that? What is the Public Art Commission?
answer the C.
I have no problem with that.
It's fine, yeah.
Okay. Any other additions or deletions for the
Do we have
minutes?
to talk about the
Yeah.
committees in there?
Well, that this is the minutes of the retreat. So the,
Right, and you assigned 2 people to come up with plans that we're looking at today.
right? I
At that
did.
retreat.
And I assigned them at that retreat. Is that your recollection?
Yeah,
So that we should then include in the agenda that Allison Buck was assigned to explore a plan for,
Were these assignments made at the retreat?
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm asking.
I remember John saying, will you lead that to somebody? And
Yeah,
was that-
I
was that
pointedly
at the
asked you.
retreat? I remember I got pointed out, but it might have been at a meeting, not the retreat. I thought it was
It was at the library
retreat.
when I was told,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
for sure.
David, what is your recollection?
It's too long ago to
Is it?
confirm one or the other. I'm fine with including it here.
Okay, it sounds like we have at least 2 folks that would like to include them, and I see Allison busy writing. Do you have some suggested language that we could put in the minutes?
So Allison Buck was assigned to explore a plan to provide education and marketing. And
Connie Brown was assigned to develop a plan.
Yeah, I even wonder if we just don't say, if this is kind of what the goal is, our 2 new committees were created. And it's an education marketing committee is one of them, and the other is youth involvement committee. I think, because that's how these goals are reading, not like this person did this and that person did that, and,
that's fine with me.
yeah. I
Is
think
that
just
fine
say
with
the
you?
2 new committees.
Does
were
everyone
created.
agree?
Yeah.
2 new committees were created. And the committees' names would be
Youth involvement?
youth involvement and
And marketing.
marketing. So, Ms. Harrison, do you have our, great, anything else?
Can we just move all of the actual business under a new business heading instead of being under approval of the agenda?
Yes. So after approval of the agenda, you would say new business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, Ms. Harrison,
Thumbs up.
your subordinate, Mr. Hoopy, is making notes in case you don't have complete ones. You'll just have to refer to him. So, do we have sort of an understanding? And I apologize about this, but these documents live forever, and we want them to be accurate, and that's really the reason that we are taking this. That I've asked both Ms. Harrison and Mr. Hoopy if he might be able to send the packet to us the weekend before the meeting so that we could really drill into it. We wouldn't have to take up time here. There's some question about, they want to sort of get us to go to the Legistar and those kinds of things. But if that's at all possible, they're going to think about it so that we could do exactly this, and we'll come prepared at our meetings. Having said that, we now have these minutes. It's been seconded. We've had our discussion. All those in favor of accepting the
Sorry,
minute?
can I add?
Yes, one more.
Under the public comments, can this read that public, which was one person, expressed concern regarding a claim of an Open Meeting Act violation? This sounds like we're agreeing that we did something wrong, and I don't know that any of us do.
I agree. I think that better represents what was said at the meeting. Ms. Harrison? Does that comport with your recollection?
That's fine with me.
Okay, if we could change the minutes to read that, again, Mr. Esau, what was the?
Expressed concern
An individual expressed concern.
a claim of an Open Meeting Act violation would.
A claim rather than concern
Yeah.
regarding the violation. So a claim of a violation as opposed to a violation. Because I don't think we in fact did violate the Open Meetings Act, and I do believe that the city administrator investigated and confirmed that. So, with that, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of the March 3rd meeting as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Well, we have 1 minute, and now the minutes for March 7th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion?
Commissioner Brown moved and Commissioner Miller seconded. Is there any additions or deletions to those minutes?
I have no comments.
Okay.
Fine.
Mr. Miller,
I don't. I would be curious to hear if there was any updates from Mr. Ranzini. Nothing?
None that have been presented to us.
then all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented of the March 7th meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Those minutes are approved, and that is all of the minutes. Is that right, Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Old business, the Ann Arbor Arts Center City Gallery installations Ms. Harrison, did you put this on that you just wanted to alert us that this is where we can find the information? Okay, so as you know, the city has hired the Art Center to exhibit, have a number of exhibits here in council chambers, and we can see them behind us now, that they have created a website where we can find out what those exhibits are. I think this is excellent. You can see all the past exhibits that I have already noted to Ms. Harrison and Mr. Hoopy, if they could relate to the Art Center, if they could add the dates, because I tried to find out what the current one is, and it's difficult to find out. It's just a number of exhibits, and I don't know whether it's in chronological order from beginning to end or end to beginning. So, but it's very good. It has all of the images, it has a lot of the background to it, so you can really see it, and I think that, and thank you for sharing that link, and I would encourage all commissioners to share this link as well on social media. Let's kind of promote it.
Bob has something to share about the current.
So I wanted to let you guys know, and the public know also, that we've had some good success, and there's been sales, a sale, and from the gallery here, so. Good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. For this show here or?
For this show here.
For this show here.
Mm-hmm.
So I have not heard anything about this, but are we getting more and more folks coming in and viewing it?
Yeah, there was a sale, so there was a marriage performed, and one of the attendees purchased a painting.
Isn't that great?
Cool.
As memento of their marriage, how appropriate, and they like the painting.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Good news. Okay, I want to move into new business. And it's been referenced in the minutes that there were committees that were created or that I tasked individuals to develop a plan for 3 areas. And within the minutes of the retreat, you will see the order in which the commission ranked projects that they would like to take on. And so I selected the top 3 and tasked individuals to come up with a plan, and that where necessary, we would create a committee, and they would be chair of that committee. So I would like to first ask Commissioner Esau to address I'm sorry. Commissioner Buck. Improve resources on existing public art by updating Michigan Art Tours and City Web. Could you please describe what you are thinking about your plan for your committee?
So generally in the ordinance that talks about what we're supposed to be doing, it talks about the oversight body shall promote awareness of public art. So in order to do that and do what we're supposed to be doing, this goal is to provide educational information and identify public artworks already in place so that residents and visitors to Ann Arbor can more easily find and understand the city's collection. So that will start by looking at what's currently on the APAC website and talking with whomever we need to at the city to figure out how we can update that information on a regular basis and begin updating the content there, images, to bring it up to date with the projects that happened recently, and then add any information on the older projects that we would like to. And also adding the Michigan Art Tours app, because lots of people have said they wanted to have walking tours and things, but the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs already has this Michigan Art Tours app where you can, once you load that on your phone, it knows where you are and you can do a walking tour. Most of our work is already on that application, so we just need to make sure it's up to date. So that's the second goal, is to update that application with all of our collection. And then the last thing we had talked about previously, and this also allows people who are visiting the works in person, is to add plaques to each of the artworks that identifies the artist, the title of work, the date of installation, the City of Ann Arbor and the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission. And then potentially adding a QR code or something that would link back to the information on the website. We'll have to dive into that a little bit more in the committee to see if that's worthwhile. But going through the different phases to figure out what kind of signs, who provides the signs, who makes the signs, who installs them, and all that with the city. So that's pretty much what we'll be doing.
Excellent. Anyone have any questions regarding this plan? At the end of this discussions, I would like to approve a committee appointing Allison Buck as the chair and inviting anyone here that would like to be on it. So do you have any suggestions for Allison and Commissioner Brown? I'm sorry, you looked like you
I
might.
do not have a question for Allison. One thing we've done in the past, which we maybe could do again too, just because we only have so many commission members, is we've been able to add, I don't know, Craig, are they like ad hoc committee members, people who are part of the committee but not part of the commission, so we can broaden our range with just not commissioners, but people who have experience in the areas that we're looking at, who can add some vitality and other ideas to things too.
Great.
So,
And Allison has asked also if I would see if we could find somebody that had a historic reference to what's been going on. Connie, no, but you have a lot on your plate, and so I don't want you to divert, your time. I just want you to know that Allison wants to find out what maybe what art may have been created in the past that we don't really know about.
Well, once
and
we
what
dive into it,
backstories.
we'll have to see what has been provided on the website and what we want to overall have about each piece. And I might check in with you to see if there's missing information, to see if you know it or
yeah,
can
and
provide
one
it.
of the arts administrator a number of years ago had created something for all of the art pieces, some
Right.
kind of log of what there
Oh.
was, so that should be available to you where I don't know, but it was
Like a
something.
physical?
Yeah,
Oh,
physical
okay.
log of everything.
Well, it was digital, I think.
It was
and so-
digital
yeah,
and it was
so
mapped, a lot of it was mapped too. He put it on, I don't know if it was the particular website you're talking about, but he had mapped out a lot of the pieces that were university-owned, city-owned, et cetera.
Okay.
So I think there's resources there for you.
Great.
So, Mr. Hoopy, could you sort of investigate whether or not it exists or not and whether it's available?
Thanks.
So I'm willing to serve on your committee.
Great.
That I'd like invite a motion to create, would promotion committee work
Sure.
for you? Create the promotion committee and appointing Allison Buck as its chair. Is there a motion? Commissioner Brown moved and
Second.
Commissioner Esau seconded. Is there any discussion about the creation of this committee? Commissioner Miller, you
No, I'm just thinking about it, but
thinking?
yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And we know you're leaving, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't be an ad hoc member of that committee.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So all those in favor of creating the promotion committee and appointing Allison Buck as its chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? We have a promotions committee. The next committee, is developing a tracking system for the enhancement of CIP projects. Commissioner Esau is chair of the CIP committee, and he has created a plan or a description, and could you just, as best as you can, as briefly as you can, describe what this document entails?
Sure, I think we've got kind of baby steps toward a plan, because it's a complicated process that we're just starting to get our head around. We met with Deb Goslin, the CIP committee did, to talk about how projects move through the city and through the consultants and everything, to figure out where we wanted to try to get in there and insert ourselves to try to advocate for public art or help move the design along or the process along, so that it's not just done as kind of an afterthought at the end of the project. And that was a very helpful discussion. we did start to put together the basics of a project tracking system with the list on the second page of the document. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is where the decision would be made about whether it's a major or minor project, and whether that happens right away when a project starts, primarily based on cost, or whether it would be later after we have a little more sense of what the project is. Because you'll recall, the CIP doesn't have any description other than a title. And in our work with Deb on figuring out what to recommend for enhancement, we get a little more description of what the project might be, but it's really still very undefined. So the city engineer has to take that and define it. Obviously, if it's replacing a sewer system, that's pretty straightforward, but a lot of them are pretty undefined yet about what the scope is. So that's what we have to figure out. And then there were some notes in here about things that, whether the APAC needs to vote on particular things, like we recommended that an APAC commissioner be a champion who works with the city staff to look at where it might go to try to define some parameters early on. Does APAC need to vote on that, or can we just ask for volunteers and have them start working? Do we need to approve any preliminary scope? We haven't in the past, but do we want to? And the recommendation of it, whether it's a major or minor project, should that be something that we want to vote on before it goes to council as part of a final budget? I'm not sure if we need to on any of those, but if there's something, certainly if staff thinks that we should, then we should. It will be hard as a project moves through the system to work it into our every other month schedule would be the biggest concern.
Any questions? Just to bring folks up to speed, if you're tuning in wondering, what is this all about? The CIP is the municipal construction. This is how the city builds projects. We've been tasked by council to take a look at all of those projects and identify which of the construction projects might have potential for public art. It's not as simple as it may appear to be. Our committee has identified criteria, processes, systems in which to do that. In fact, this past year, that we have applied that criteria and those systems, and we have a list of projects that have been presented to council and that have been approved. Now, what happens next? How can that be an effective tool as opposed to just a list of something being sent off? And it was identified at our retreat as one of the things that we wanted to explore. And as I have read your notes, Commissioner, you saw that champion is a familiar term to me, and that it's what the old commission used to identify someone that would take on kind of an art project. So what I understand you're suggesting is that commissioners be at a certain point when this project actually takes greater shape and can actually, a champion can help, that a art commissioner is identified to be a champion for that project and serve as kind of advisor to the city. It makes a lot of sense. I would like to suggest that we make that determination at the committee level. Like, if your committee is ready to have a champion, the chair of that committee will select, recruit, appoint the champion. That champion will kind of work with your committee in service to the staff. I think that we need to keep this in mind, that we are not adversaries, that we are really intending to help give advice to that project manager. And we really don't know what kind of advice they might want or how that advice might be delivered best. But I, at this stage, would like those determinations to be made at your committee level and you to report back to the commission level. So that at our meetings, you can explain that we've got 3 projects coming on, you appointed champions and so forth, and this is what's going on, and you can kind of track them, you can get the feedback, you've developed a relationship with Deb Goslin and with Mr. Hoopy, and so that I trust Commissioner Esau's judgment, and that's what I would recommend, that if he thinks it's necessary to have his committee approve something, fine. If you do not think it is, fine. I think the proof is in the pudding. If we get more art projects in a variety of different medias and a variety of different forms into our municipal construction, the better. And however you can do that, I think that you should have some leeway to experiment with. That's my opinion. Anyone else like to share an opinion? What I would.
That sounds great. My question would be, who at the city reaches out to us to say, there's a CIP project going, we need a champion?
Well, most of the people that would be managing the project would be people working for Craig, so presumably Craig or that employee would, when Craig assigns it to an employee, he would either tell us or tell them to tell us that there's a project coming down the pike that we would be interested in, and we've expressed an interest in.
So like when they get assigned a project, they also know that it's been identified by us
Yeah.
for
When the
enhancement?
assignment is made,
Uh-huh.
it is done with the capital budget annually. The project becomes live when council votes on their capital budget in May. And after that, as it's given to an engineer to work on, through that process, they would have to be made aware that it's a art enhanced project. And that would be,
And that should be in
That's-
that capital budget, because
Yeah,
it's already in the CIP.
Yeah, I believe Deb said, if I'm right, that they're gonna track it now, where I don't think
Yeah.
it was really being tracked
Yeah,
before, but
that's
it's
what I
like
was
one of
getting
those
at.
things that get checked, and so if you then become the manager for that, you've got many things you've gotta look
That's-
at, many consultants, and one of them is that this is something that's been recommended for
Oh, okay.
an
when
enhancement.
it comes out
So
of the
you,
CIP and goes into the capital budget, that's one of the things we now have to earmark or tag on the project as it becomes a live, real project.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
And
Yeah.
that would be Deb tagging it.
yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that the champion would be making decisions or selecting art or anything like that. We're just trying to find places where it might fit in with the design so that options aren't closed out right from the start.
No, the way you've described it, I just see them as someone who's gonna be constantly checking in to sort of remind them and encourage them to
Yeah.
keep their eye on that enhancement and when it should happen, and making sure it happens as soon as possible if it's gonna
Yeah.
happen and all that.
and it may be more like a liaison role in
Yeah.
some senses, that you're just kind of keeping everybody informed, you're reporting back about the process.
Yeah.
On that kind of thing.
Great.
So what I'm imagining is that Commissioner Esau, you would shape this into a recommendation to Mr. Hoopy so that it's agreeable that, his office, this is what we want to do, and that this is the best way to do it. And he might have some better ideas on how to refine that and exactly that. So what I'd like is a vote to approve this process to the CIP committee and ask the CIP committee to really take charge of it and implement it and manage it and administer it in conjunction with Mr. Hoopy, that serves the best interest of staff and of the committee and of the commission as a whole. Is that?
Great.
I think it's fine. I think we're probably going to have to fumble through a couple of them
Absolutely.
before we can refine the process real well.
Absolutely.
Fully expect.
And if you can kind of report
Sure.
at our meetings on the progress that you're making. I've said this before, and I don't think I can say it enough, that what David and his committee has done has moved this commission light years forward. Do I get an amen?
Absolutely.
Yes. That it is amazing. I've been on this commission for 6 years, and I feel traction, and I really like that. So, that a motion to approve Mr. Esau's plan and ask him to move forward implementing it as best as he sees fit. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Commissioner Buck. Second, Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? We have one last one. Establish programming that engages the youth of our community. And Commissioner Brown has taken this on, and I really appreciate it. Could you describe a little bit of what your plan is?
Sure, I think like anything, it's going to evolve once we get kids involved and see where things are going. But the point is really to get youth involved in the process that we're doing up here. And also, the public votes on projects, there's public engagement in projects, and to make sure that youth has a voice and maybe has more of a voice or is aware that they can have a voice. Sometimes it's just getting the publicity out to them that they can be a part of things. So a couple of ideas that I want to explore over this next chunk of time is to have a junior member, a youth member, as part of the commission. Maybe it would be through the school year, something that would go in accordance with that. It gives them some leadership role, not just coming to a project where you're slinging a paintbrush, and be able to comment on the things we're doing and be involved in that. The other things are to look at involving them in the task force that are actually a part of the choices for the art. That where it's appropriate and applicable and it works, to be able to include a youth member as part of the people that are looking at the choices of the artist and talking about them. And the last thrust is to understand how to get their attention. What means do we have, what organizations do we have to go through? And I think it's got to be a little bit more active and a little bit more immediate, rather than don't forget to vote on June 7th, but you can get on your phone now and do something. So looking at those kinds of things.
Excellent. And I might add that we have a new member. We have an application to be a new member. And she is with us today, Deb Mexicott. And she comes with an enormous wealth of experience working with A2R2. Did I get that correct? A2RU. And the Arts Engine. And these are initiatives university-wide and actually national projects regarding art in education. She also has been on the Board of Education, so I think that Deb will bring an enormous amount of experience if the council approves the mayor's appointment, and we look forward to that. But it'll go right along with this initiative.
She'd be perfect.
She'd be perfect.
She would be perfect for this.
So can we call this the youth committee? Is that what you'd like it? Education committee? What would you prefer?
I'm not a good namer. Why don't you come up with a name for me, John?
Why don't we put education, and it'll
Okay.
be kind of a catch-all. We could bring all kinds of sort of stuff.
I would like youth to be able to come and talk to us about what's happening with them and what's going on with, things in their community and art and how they see the world too. So I think it's a very back and forth kind of thing.
I'd like them to have a voice
Yep.
in Ann Arbor's art program, in the policy, and in the discussion of why is creativity and why is art important. And I think we can learn a lot from them. So if that suits your purpose, I would like to, a motion to create the Education Committee, appointing
Connie?
Connie Rosillo Brown. Thank you. And I invite a motion to that effect.
I'll move.
Commissioner Esau and Commissioner Buck seconded. Any discussion on that committee? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we have a new committee. Thank you.
I'm curious, Craig, do you know if the city rules would have any prohibitions against minors participating?
I don't know.
I would assume they'd have to go through the normal process. for-
I have a note
Yeah,
already gathered here.
you're way ahead of me.
Youth member to the commission, question mark,
Yeah.
and I will research that.
I know it's a challenge to find people. The Hands-On Museum has often had a youth board member, and it's becoming harder and harder to find them.
Well, we
We can try.
we're gathering experience to, if anybody can find them, I think that with maybe our new commissioner might be able to do that. In addition, that I've talked with professors that also are interested in a class assignment sort of project. So it would be for a term, though it wouldn't be for 3 years. And I think that would be the challenge with the council, to appoint somebody just for a limited amount of time. However, I might note that we as a commission can appoint members ourselves. They would not be able to have a vote at this dais, but they could influence us. And so it doesn't mean that we would defer a lot of our opinion to that voice as well. And it's all our culture, how we create it. So I don't think that should inhibit us, but Mr. Hoopy's going to investigate what the limits of that might be. Is there any more discussion about that? The next item for business is the commissioner orientation packet. And Commissioner Crowley was not able to be with us, so I would like to put that off until our next meeting. And that we can, and we may have a new member that might give some insight into what they might want to know, and that would influence what we create. I might add also, if Mr. Hoopy or Ms. Harrison, that when I came on, and I think Bob is the same, we got a 3-ring binder.
Yes.
And in that binder was ordinance that had a number of things in it, and that, it seemed to me there was a little bit of a history. I mean, it was the documents, but if you could investigate whether or not any of those binders or any of the material is still there, that
It could have been our administrator at the time who had prepared that for us, John. And I think lacking an administrator might make it more challenging to come up with those documents.
right.
But we can still investigate and
Yeah.
find.
There may be something there, there may be.
It may
if you
not
could
be,
just-
it may not be a 3-ring binder, it may be a thick stapled packet, but we can,
Find something.
A
Good,
Dropbox folder.
good. Very good, thank you.
yes, an electronic Dropbox.
So the next item on the business, on the agenda is a report from staff. Mr. Hoopy, the Bloomberg Challenge?
Well, actually, I'm going to defer to Ms. Harrison. She has been working with the mayor's office on this. So,
I don't have an update on the Bloomberg Challenge itself, other than John had requested copies of the top 3 finalists. So those are attached for everybody to look at, the proposals and the applications that they actually submitted. I do know that the committee chose the float as the winner, and that application has been passed on to Bloomberg. I believe the deadline is October, and I'd have to get back to you on the exact date in October that we should hear back from them.
So what we have, I have a document that
There's 3
is
different documents there.
phase one.
So there's 3 different documents.
So you actually have 3 there. The first one is the Ragtime Theater. This was their actual proposal.
Okay,
The second one, you should actually see is, what's the name of this one? Is this
The float.
float,
the float? And then the last one was the one from, Mr. Renzini.
okay.
The rotating galley.
And I'm assuming these were rated as the top 3
Yes,
of the, from the group.
And the float was the one.
And the float one was the one that was selected, and what we have here are actually what was submitted
yes.
to Bloomberg. So in my understanding is that Bloomberg has a number of steps to evaluate these through, so that this may make it in the top 100, then we submit more, may make in the top 20, and so forth.
The float is in the actual application that was submitted. The Renzini, information, they must have gone in and actually filled out the application at some point, so it looks the same, but theirs was not actually submitted that way.
On behalf of the city,
Right.
right.
Were there more than 3 submitted to the city, or,
Yes.
okay, cool. That's great.
There
What-
were 11, I think.
Wow,
Yes.
Especially on a short
Could-
timeline.
yeah.
What I was hoping for is that we could see the actual float, so the details, so we can educate ourselves if we're asked. And then if we could see the rest of them are outlines that were submitted. If we could see that, to just get a feel for the breadth and the depth of the creative ideas that are out there. That was my only reasoning. So this is 3 of them, the top 3. Is there a way that we can see the remaining 7 or whatever? And if you need us to,
They were not outlines. They were pretty long submissions, but they're like several pages, most of them.
oh,
If you want to read them all, I could share them, or you could share them.
well, if it's possible to share, not everyone wants to read. I want them to be available if someone wants to, so that if you, is that acceptable? That Allison share these with the rest of the commission? Ms. Harrison?
I'm going to defer to Craig.
Mr. Hooper?
I don't know under what terms they were submitted. I don't see why we wouldn't share them, because when they're submitted to us at the city, they become public documents.
Right. So if you wouldn't mind,
Sure. I have them all in one Google Drive for me to share with you.
so that you will get an idea if you have nothing to do on the weekend and you want to drill in. I think it will enlighten us as to, you know, if you dangle $1 million out here, you know, what kind of ideas and who submitted. I think that's important information for us to do. But thank you very much, Ms. Harrison. I appreciate that. Are there any questions regarding the Bloomberg Challenge?
No, the only other thing is, so this is the float submission, but there's attachments that were submitted with it,
Yes.
which I don't have copies of. I could not share those, but all the attached documents.
Yes. I don't have all of those.
Oh, okay.
They're actually in their system, but I could get them from Christine if you need them.
Do you want to see the attachments?
Well, it sounds like they're like budgets and things like that.
Yes.
And for myself, I just want to see the narrative. I want to hear what they're describing it as. That this is, I just want to be informed. We're on the Art Commission, we should be informed about what are they trying to do.
Yeah, the
I don't think-
attachments are the mayor's letter, pictures, a map, and a budget.
Right. I don't think we need to know exactly how much are they gonna spend for this and that. That is public document, and it can be FOIA'd if anyone wants to. I just wanted to keep our commission sort of up to speed. So, is there any other questions on the Bloomberg Challenge? The next item, report from staff, is the Allmendinger mosaic repair. Mr. Hoobie?
Yes, I have met with park staff to make them aware of the vandalism that was done. They are working on preparing an estimate and a plan for restoration. And once we have that, we'll discuss how that goes forward. Understanding that the way the capital art process is set up is if your project has embedded art in it, you're responsible for maintaining it.
The department,
The unit that has it. So.
Parks, in other words.
Parks in this case, in other words. And so we're sort of helping guide them through their restoration.
How extensive was the damage?
I don't
Do you
know
know?
yet. That's
Okay.
why I
Yeah.
asked them to, I haven't been out there to look
Okay.
at it.
And are you encouraging them to reach out to the artists to make sure that it's
Oh,
consistent?
most definitely as we do that, yes.
Okay, very good. One other regarding the Allmendinger repair, I know that Commissioner Miller sent some photographs regarding some maintenance issues
yes.
for the.
And that's been shared with the facility staff at City Hall, who's responsible for that. Just briefly, those side panels were added to prevent vandalism to the art. The original art was open on the side panels, and the guts were exposed to tampering with. The side panels were added. The current plan is to take them off, powder coat them, and then reinstall them. So that's on the list of seasonal activity this year.
Just as an aside, is there anyone that sort of reviews the public art on an annual basis, or?
No, it would be the responsibility of the unit that hosts the art to review it.
I will say, they are responsive to the click and fix, what's it called?
C-click.
C-click fix. So as you're walking around, if you see any public arts that need anything done to them, I was over in Carytown today, and there was a nice big flyer attached to the black piece outside of the co-op there, and I took that right down. So we're all guardians of the public art.
Yes.
Good, good. Any other questions for staff regarding their staff reports, Bloomberg and Allmendinger? If not, reports from committees. We dissolved the.
Wait, can I say one thing about the Bloomberg channel?
Yes.
I wanted to thank Vanita for how much she helped with that process, coming in on her time off and really coordinating a lot of meetings, and I know that was a lot of time and effort, so thank you.
And I'm glad to hear you give her those praises.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the entire staff, from the city administrator on down, frankly, this was a curveball thrown at us. And frankly, that without the people that agreed to step forward, this could not have been done. This was turned around, within a matter of days, literally. I was called in to a meeting with the city administrator and with Vanita and with the mayor's assistant. And we just hammered out a plan right there. And literally within hours after that meeting, those notices started going out. So I think kudos to the city. It speaks well of the city, and as Commissioner Buck indicated, for Vanita, that, because this wasn't, you know, along with this, you know, you had to, you know, keep the sewer going and keep the water and the streets and everything else, and
Thanks for that, by the way.
thank you for that, yes, yes, yes. And counting the potholes, no, I should have never said that. But it's important.
In all honesty, as much of a whirlwind as it was truly interesting and actually really challenging to get people together so quickly and then to realize to make decisions. So we moved really quickly on, I mean, really, we were talking about less than 2 weeks. So looking at 11 proposals and sitting down, Vice Committee, we all seemed to be on the same page immediately. So just flowed really well. So it was nice to be part of the process.
Good. Let's have that a model moving forward. And just those that might be watching, you know, let's not get our hopes too high, that there are thousands submissions. And, you know, it's going to be one of 3, and it's going to take a long time. This is the first submission. I worked with the Heidelberg Project in Detroit, and they made it into the top 10, I think. And it is a long slog that once you get eliminated, you know, you are in the top 150. Like, please submit the next 15 pages of documents. You are in the top 50, so it goes down, and we need to submit more as the process comes along. It's a long shot, but I think more than anything, and both the city administrator and the mayor said this is an opportunity to really test some things out, to get up to speed for the next one. And I'm glad to hear your report, Vanita. Thank you, and thank you, Allison. I mean, you know, the heavy lifting is this young lady here. That, I mean, she crafted the whole process. You know, that I just took her email and submitted it to the mayor, like, you should think of this. And he said, excellent, let's do it, meet tomorrow. So that's all Allison. She figured out a way to make this happen, and then she volunteered to be, you know, to lead that task force, and she did very well. Thank you very much. A report from committees. Is there a report from the CIP committee?
I think we had ours earlier.
Okay, exactly. There are no special presentations, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
May I say something before we
Yes,
adjourn?
yes.
If we're supposed to go to Legistar to get our packets, that's fine with me. Just let me know when they're going to be there.
Yeah.
They don't have to be printed out. I'm cool with doing that, just as long as I get them ahead of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's the key,
That's
to get
the
them
discussion.
ahead of the meeting.
That's the whole discussion.
Whether it's a link to them, or whether it's an attachment, if we can get them ahead, works for me.
It may be a simple email blast going out saying they've been posted
They've been
to
posted,
the
yeah.
Legistar.
Yeah.
Good. And we'll still need the paper copies, because as much as we complain that we don't get them early, we don't bring them. So unfortunately. Anything else? Any other last minute discussions? I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I said, and the art commissioners don't get laptops like city council.
Ah. If we did, we probably would forget those. So, a motion to adjourn? Anyone?
Motion.
Commissioner Buck and Commissioner Brown, we stand adjourned. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.